Just want to say good morning, good relatives. I greet you all a good day, and wishing all a good fall blessing. Wishing all our ones out there that are less fortunate. We have some relatives today that are mourning. Condolences to them. And then to all our our good relatives out there, our ceremonial practitioners, and all our good relatives that are trying their best to uphold to their duties and responsibilities. I just want to thank God, the Creator, the Great Spirit here for blessing us all with another new day. As we move forward here, Native American Church of North America, we just want to give an update. I know I try my best here to give monthly updates, what's happening, what's going on, and I'm really glad and thankful that that we have a good, strong team here, like-minded people that want to move in a good direction and the protection of our good holy medicine. I want to thank our legal representative here, Mr. Jones, and our legislative chair here, Mr. Ryan Wilson, and then one of our good relatives here, Mr. Denny here, that represents the Medicine Man Association. And then same time, we just want to go live and just kind of, give you updates on what's coming up here next, this in a few weeks or so. And at the Seattle, Washington National Congress of American Indian. But before I go into that, I just want to give a quick update on our quarterly meeting we had in Denver. I just want to thank all those that took time away from their families and their home fires that made that effort there to be at the quarterly. And then we had the agenda. We had a work session Friday, and I thought that was really a nice, a good, informative, work session that we had. Just brainstorming and putting ideas out there how we can move forward on the goodness of this good, wonderful medicine, And I want to thank the Peyote Way of Life, the coalition, Mr. Daesh and Mr. Clark for being there and giving us an update on some of the things that's taking place in their community, with the Navajo Nation, the resolutions. And then same time, they shine light on DORA. It's a 8 organization there right in Denver, Colorado. It's a Department of Regulatory Agencies. And over there, back in 2022, they passed these natural plants. And then in there, they have peyote included. So they mentioned by 2026, they want to develop a system, for therapeutic healing and all those type of things. So we're trying our best here to put down some markers over there, and on a legislative note, to let them know that this peyote is being violated again daily, and it's going against the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. So we're trying to. We did a statement there to the agency, and going along, then we had our treasurer, Mr. Watson. He kind of shined light on 3 of the laws that our way of life is governed by. And then along the way, our vice president, Mr. Darrell Red Cloud, shine light on some of these coalition, these Native American Church task force. I thought that was a good idea, where he took the whole nation and divide it into 4, and then that we would get somebody in those 4 regions there to kind of be the spokesperson or be the point of contact, and are the eyes and ears out there in those areas, because we need to, kind of get recharged again. We need to start doing what we need to do, the way our relatives, prayed for us, the way our relatives instilled this way of life to us, So we don't want to get too too far out there in a way that, where this industry, psychedelic industry, is taken over, but we have laws, we have 76 years of minutes, prayers, resolutions, and statements that we're trying our best to, reinforce them again. Not trying to say we're changing anything, or we're just trying to enforce this law, this American Indian Religious Freedom Act. And then along the way, I want to thank Mr. Philip, Chief White Man, and Nicole there for mentioning all the on the cultural and the native lens, different avenues for people to understand. I don't know how much more we could explain the efforts, what we're trying to do. And then Nicole on the legal lens broke it down at the international level, and then we had different relatives that come over. Some doctors, White Eagle, she come over, did a good presentation, and different relatives too as well. So all their information was well explained and well understood. So I'm going to thank them for that. So and then going along, it's fall time now, and then we're trying our best to get back to work. I guess I know everybody's having their summer break, so now it's back to the boots on the ground and making these efforts. So as we're moving forward to the NCEI, I'm a co-chair of the Peyote Task Force. So we're trying our best to encourage all our tribal leadership, because this needs to come from tribal leadership, to get across the finish line. So I'm just going to read a little message here to all our tribal nations, our recognized tribal governments, from the Native American Church of North America and the NCAI Task Force. It's upholding to tribal sovereignty, enforcement of the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. It serves as a call to action for all our tribal leaders and governments to reaffirm their sacred duty to uphold tribal sovereignty and protect the ceremonial, spiritual, and cultural rights of Native peoples as guaranteed under the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. Our sovereignty is rooted in the sacred, in our ceremonies, our medicines, and our languages. These are the foundations of our tribal nations and our connection to the Creator. The Native American Church of North America stands as a traditional institution entrusted with the protection and continuation of these sacred practices, especially the ceremonial use of peyote, which remains federally protected sacrament for Native American church members. Recent movements promoting the decriminalization and commercialization of peyote pose a direct threat to tribal sovereignty and to the legal protections secured under American Indian Religious Freedom Act. These actions, often led by non-indigenous organizations, attempt to redefine peyote use outside its sacred tribal context and disregard the authority of tribal governments and the Native American Church. Our humble efforts and directive to the tribal nations in recognition of these concerns of the Native American Church respectfully urges all tribal governments to take the following actions: reaffirm tribal sovereignty and religious protection. Maybe pass a tribal resolution recognizing the exclusive ceremonial and religious use of our peyote ceremonial way of life by the Native American Church members as protected under American Indian Religious Freedom Act. Number 2, reject decriminalization and commercialization efforts. Publicly oppose any policies, partnerships, and advocacy groups that promote the inclusion of peyote in state or national decriminalization initiatives. 3, support Native American Church coordination. Designate a tribal Native American Church liaison and establish a ceremonial sovereignty task force within your government to coordinate, protect of our sacred practices and ensure enforcement of the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. Educate our tribal officials and law enforcement. Provide ongoing training for tribal leadership. law enforcement and cultural departments on American Indian Religious Freedom Act, peyote protection laws, and traditional responsibilities under tribal sovereignty. Strengthen the intertribal collaboration, work with NACNA, NCAI, and other tribal governments to develop intertribal compacts and shared policy frameworks, defending sacred medicine and ceremonial rights. Our sacred ceremonies, our medicines, and our languages are the foundation of our sovereignty. The sacred duty cannot be delegated to outside organizations or diluted by political movements. Tribal leaders hold the responsibility to ensure that the protection of peyote and ceremonial sovereignty remains with native tribal hands, guided by prayer and traditional, spiritual, natural laws. The Native American Church of North America, the NCAI Peyote Task Force, calls upon all our tribal nations to stand together in unity and purpose. Let us reaffirm that the path of sovereignty is also the path of ceremony, and that our strength comes from honoring the laws of our Creator alongside the laws of our people. So I just want to touch base, and for those of you wondering on the NCAI Peyote Task Force, one of the co-chairs of that. But the purpose for that Peyote Task Force is dedicated protecting and preserving the sacred use of our peyote in accordance with the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978 and 1994 amendments. Our central purpose is to defend the religious freedom, cultural sovereignty, and sustainability of peyote of all the Native American Church, family, friends, and relatives, members, and affiliated tribal practitioners. The task force was established to ensure that tribal voices lead the national conversation on peyote protection in response to growing external pressures from psychedelic research, commercialization, and state-level decriminalization efforts that threaten the integrity of indigenous religious practice. So I just want to shine light on that. The task force, it coordinates a subcommittee on cultural rights, tribal government. So we need our tribal governments to weigh in on all the efforts. So I encourage our tribal leadership that is going to attend the NCAI 82nd Annual Convention in Seattle. And I know as a task force, we're gearing up for our agenda. We have some tribal leadership on the panel. We have some ceremonial practitioners. You know, we have our legal representative, legislative chair, and other ones that are waiting to be confirmed. And we want to go in there and tell it, you know, tell our story, tell our humble beginnings into what it is now, 2025. So I just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in here. And I'm going to thank Mr. Wilson here and Mr. Jones for always, you know, doing really awesome job here for making the organization, making our NAC family, you know, feel proud and feel happy and glad to know and to say that they're part of the organization, and they know these two gentlemen here and our brother here, Avery. You know, we ain't here to be trying to ruffle feathers or make division, but yet we have man-made energy, thoughts, and feelings that, you know, are going that route. You know, I know one day we're all, you know, going to be around the fireplace. So what we're saying and what we're doing was what we heard growing up. Is what we heard our uncles and aunties crying, having tobacco in their hand, having cedar in their hand, have these sacred instruments in their hand, making expressions, telling everyone to take care of this medicine, crying, tears coming down, grandma over here, auntie over here. So we're just upholding to our duties and responsibilities. We're not saying one fireplace is better than this fireplace, or one tribe better than this tribe. We got to be really thankful for our southern relatives, our southern people, where they bestowed these fireplaces to different tribes, different nations. And you would think before you talk about this peyote, or before you go around the world, or go talk at these different conferences, that you would let them know what they're going to do, our Oklahoma relatives. Because that's what we did. We have a joint statement with them. Everything that we're doing, we got their thumbs up. We got their approval. We ain't going out and about and just doing this and that. What we're doing before we do something, we call upon God, the Creator. We let our elders know. We let our uncles know, our aunties. Let them know what we're doing, what's going on. What do you think? Yeah, that's good. We move forward. We go on. You know, so we're all getting older. We're all, you know, see all this corruption here within our nation. You see it on TV. All these things, you know, some way, somehow, you know, we all know this good medicine, you know, and then that's going to take care of all of us. So I'm going to encourage you all to make your way to Seattle, and then to hear, if your tribal leadership, chairman can't make it, send a representative, you know, because what's going to be said, what's going to be done in our documents, you know, you're going to be saying, geez, why didn't we get involved a long time ago? Those kind of things, you know, we want everyone to have a good peace of mind, a good mindset to know. Now, it's not just peyote, it's all our ceremonies. It's all our medicines and language. So it's all on the line, relatives. So I encourage everyone to make our way to Seattle and hear what we have to say, hear what these other tribal leaders, we all want to come together in a nice way, one mind, one heart, one prayer, one song for the betterment of our future and our children that are coming up. So I just want to kind of say about that much. I could go on, but I'm going to encourage everyone. In February, we're going to have a harvest there with our peyote distributors. So I want to encourage relatives to come down and, harvest your own medicine. You know, so I'm really thankful and glad and happy about that. So we'll look forward to February. Good relatives, Sweetheart Weekend, President's Day. Come on down. You know, it's going to be really awesome. So I'm just trying to uphold to my duties and responsibilities as the president. To me, that's just a title. But nevertheless, you know, this was, it came to be where the people, the tribes affiliated with the organization, you know, wanted me to be in this position. So I'm trying to do the best that I can, being transparent, being accountable, and having these live statements so you know what's happening, know what's going on. So that way everyone will hear it from the organization, rather hearsay, you know, like that. So I know one day maybe we'll be sitting around with these our good relatives, you know, again, you know, in a nice way. But until then, you know, we're still making these efforts, you know, to express the reality of things here today, you know. So I just want to say that. I want to thank our good relatives that have been praying, making encouragement, doing all these good things, you know, in a nice way for us here to do what we need to do and things like that. So I just want to say that. I'll turn this time over here to our legal representative, Mr. Justin Jones. I'm going to thank him. Some movements, Purple Wave, going to be happening. So I just want to say thank him very much, taking time out and to be here and to on a legal lens so we can break it down. Basically, our sovereignty and tribal government we need. Okay, brother.
Good morning, relatives, far and near in all four directions. I want to greet everyone with my good feelings and my good thoughts, and along with a prayer as well for everyone across Indian country today. Good morning. I want to thank brother here, Poncho, and brother Ryan here. We made our journey here to Newtown, North Dakota once more. We had some very good conversation, discussions, and planning yesterday and this morning as well. concerning a lot of the issues that are facing Indian country today. A lot of times we talk about issues facing Indian country, and a lot of it is about, like, for example, SNAP, the current the federal government shutdown, different issues that Indian country faces every day. And it seems like we make a big deal about it when these things come, these crises come our way. But they are true, they are a big deal. But it seems like we forget about the real essence of our existence as tribal nations, the essence and the heart and soul of who we are and what we're about. We can have discussions on sovereignty day in, day out, talk about United States Supreme Court cases, we can talk about federal law, federal jurisdictions, etc., that basically take up the predominant time in our gatherings a lot of times. But we found ourselves here in the last couple of years that a lot of these issues have already been there. It's been talked about. It's going to continue to be talked about. But one thing that we're neglecting is the heart and soul, the definition, the foundation of who we are, and the definition and foundation of our sovereignty. We are sovereign nations. We are here as distinct nations that were created and put forth upon this earth and within the confines of this universe by the Holy Spirit. And it's only through that creation that was defined as who we are. Only the Holy Spirit is the one that designed and made tribes and Indian people the way that we are. Nobody else gave us that. We are who we are because the Holy Spirit began. That's the one that created us like that. Along with that creation, we also were given certain things. Our ability to communicate with our Creator. And He gave us that language to communicate with the Creator. And through that, there are various beautiful things that the Creator gave us. And so that in itself is something that makes us distinct and different from everybody else. And that is the heart and soul of our sovereignty today. And so we often say that it was the United States Supreme Court during the Cherokee cases that defined sovereignty. But if you read those Supreme Court cases, there's a word that the Supreme Court used. In that, the word that the Supreme Court used was that we are inherently sovereign. Inherently sovereign meaning that nobody else gave us that except our Creator. And nobody else can determine how we exercise that sovereignty except us, ourselves. And so even the non-Indian already defined that for us back in the 1800s. And so today, it seems like we make that a less priority of a discussion in a lot of our conversations that we have. And it's especially prominent today, it's very noticeable today, that we don't really find that conversation within the confines and within the context of our tribal governmental leadership discussions today. But the Native American Church of North America, we made it a point today. It is a high priority. It is an urgent need today that we have to continue that discussion. We have to put that on the table and begin to work with tribal governments to say, hey, tribal government, you are the protector of our sovereignty. You are the ones who are elected by your people. You're the governing body of your respective tribes. You are the one that is responsible for this. So thereby, it behooves you tribal governments to begin to put this on your priority list. put it on the table, maybe ahead of a lot of things that maybe you prioritize. That in itself is something that has been the mission of Native American Church of North America up to now. And it will continue to do so. And so every day we seek avenues and different ways that we can continue to keep that conversation, to continue to keep that advocacy for sovereignty from that perspective, through those sovereignty, cultural preservation, ceremonial preservation, and protocols and language preservation perspectives. And so that's been the predominant discussion today in this 2025 fall season, and we started that discussion very actively during the past Native American Church of North America annual convention over at Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin, this past summer. There was even a symposium in Denver, Colorado thereafter that was focused based upon that. And we continue that discussion today, and we're prioritizing that advocacy. And certainly that topic, that concept, and that discussion, we're bringing that to the table before the National Congress of American Indians as well, to begin to bond with the National Congress of American Indians. Because when you look at the National Congress of American Indians, when they were first incepted, when they were first created as the tribal nation advocates, the defenders of sovereignty, that was the basis that organization was created, to advocate for that, to make sure that our ceremonies, our medicines, our language, our ways of life, our whole Indian identity remains intact. So it is very fitting that we begin this bonding process. It's very fitting that we bring this to the table. And then National Congress of American Indians, we're exceptionally thankful to the leadership there in so many ways, that they've seen the movement, they've seen the importance of it. They've seen that to the point where now the Peyote Task Force has been formed within the context of the organization. Now, the task force is a task force that is equal to hunting rights, fishing rights, land-based rights, all of these things that we've been advocating for through all these years. But now, today, the National Congress of American Indians thought of it enough that it's so important to us that our ceremonies, our medicines, our language, our ways of life is so important that there has to be a task force. Although it is labeled as the Peyote Task Force, really embedded in there is the protection and preservation of our culture, protection and preservation of our ceremonies, our medicines, to ensure that these things remain intact. These things continue to be there, that it's going to be there the way that it is, the way that it was passed down to us from generations, the way that it is today, the way it's going to be the same way generations to come. So that's what this task force is all about. And through that, we're bringing that to the table, and we're making it a part of the annual convention that happens every year. So the convention in Seattle is no exception. We have an agenda that we have finalized, and we're going to have a discussion, that we're going to have a good conversation with tribal leaders that are going to be in attendance. We say tribal leaders because we feel that that's the conversation we need to have. There are other organizations, yes, there are other organizations that are there, but they're not tribal leadership the way that they're not put there by the people. Only tribal leadership are put there by the people, whether it's a chairman, whether it's a president, whether they're councilmen, councilwomen, or council delegates, in our case, the Navajo Nation. Those are the ones that are the official voice of the people. So we have to get that conversation with them directly. And so that's our advocacy, and that's our initiative that we have through the National Congress of American Indians. And certainly we are excited. We are looking forward to having that conversation, not only during the task force meetings, but throughout the course of the week that we have there in Seattle. And so those are some things that we wanted to highlight today. And that was what our conversation was about yesterday and then today again. And we wanted to ensure that we tell all of our relatives in Indian country that this is what's happening here, this is what we're doing. And there are reasons why, not only for advocacy for the protection and preservation, especially on the protection side, because every day it's a fight. There's encroachment, there's trespass, there's violations, there are things that are happening out there that not everybody knows about and hears about that are very counter and detrimental to the genuine existence of our ceremonies. And so we can't just have that conversation by ourselves as well. And so we've brought in the traditional practitioners. In this case, that the NACNA Association have been a good partner in our efforts, and that's the reason why Mr. Avery Denny, the president of the NACNA Association, was part of our meeting here and bringing that focus and perspectives as well. And we also are working with other tribal practitioners as well to make sure that we are well-rounded in our efforts to protect and preserve our ceremonies, our medicines, and especially our language. And so those are some things, and I always make this point, relatives, we always make this point, is the fact that if we don't have our traditional language, if we don't have our native language, if we don't have that, if it's gone, our ceremonies are gone. Because our ceremonies are language-based. Like for our Diné ceremonies, all of our sodazin, all of our sin, our songs and our prayers, they are said in our Navajo language. Just like any other tribal nation that is there that do their traditional ceremonies, is language-based. So we have to put language in there. It has to be part of this discussion. It has to be part of this conversation. We can't leave it out. And so thereby, that is one of the main focal points of our efforts as Native American Church of North America. And a lot of times, relatives, it seems like when you go about Indian country conversations, a lot of times it seems like there's misunderstandings that take place. The misunderstandings is that when they see the term Native American Church of North America, or when there's mentioning of peyote, people think that it's just about peyote. It's just about NAC, that type of a movement. Maybe it might have been in years past, but today I can assure you it's not just about that anymore, because it's just common sense. When you talk about ceremony, you're talking about other ceremonies as well. When you talk about medicines, you're not just talking about peyote, the medicine. You're talking about other medicines that are still prevalent and are still being used today. So the conversation has gone beyond that. So just because it says Native American Church or we're talking about peyote, just doesn't mean that we're just talking about that part of it. We're talking about everything. We're even talking about the way that we carry on our Indian protocols here, our Native protocols, our clanship systems. We're talking about the way that we do conflict resolutions as well, how we resolve our problems and our issues. We're talking about all of that as well. So I just wanted to make that clarification, because a lot of times we're asked, you're just talking about peyote or Native American. No, that's not what we're just talking about. It goes beyond that. So it was very fitting to bring traditional practitioners as well, coming into our discussions and our conversations and our advocacy work on behalf of all of our ceremonies and all of our medicines and all of our the language that we're using as well to make sure that we're fighting for that and on behalf of that. So those are all the reasons in summation why we need tribal leadership at the table. It has to be part of our conversation. in our tribal council chambers, in our office of the chairman, of the presidents. It has to be part of that now. And we can't continue just to leave it and let it fall by the wayside and get too involved in other things, because it may be too late. We may be 20 years down the road and maybe more tribes are going to be losing their language. There's going to be others, it may be too late, and we don't certainly want that to happen. And so thereby, that's one thing that we really want to advocate for on our behalf. And just wanted to say that and give that summation here concerning. So the legal aspects of that is we're talking about tribal law, advocacy for that. How do we write or rewrite or develop tribal law within our tribal governments to ensure that those are protected and preserved? How do we begin to even infuse that into the way that the tribal governments work? How do we begin to infuse that? How do we begin to do all of that? Not only at the tribal level, tribal governmental, tribal judicial process levels, but also the tribal state relationships, and then the state and federal relationships. And most certainly, one of the predominant laws that we're working with today is the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. The act in itself and the amendments that came thereof. And then so there are other federal laws that we're also working with to ensure that these laws are conducive and they are protecting as they were intended to do to begin with when they were first passed by the various governments, that governmental bodies that passed them. And so those are the legal aspects of that, and seeing all of that and begin to work with tribal governments and to ensure that that is there. So those are some of the advocacy work that we're doing here at Native American Church in North America. And it certainly was good to see and talk and address all of you good relatives, far and near, all four directions, and then for the fact that we all came together in our planning meeting here yesterday and today. So it was good, and look forward to seeing many of you. I just
want to thank our legal advisor here, our legal team, Mr. Jones, for a really good explanation, and the tribal government and sovereignty on the legal lens. I want to thank you, Justin, and then very much here. So I'll turn this time over here to our legislative chair, Mr. Wilson, and I want to thank him for all his good efforts here, as a legislative chair. So I want to thank him very much here at this time. So let him give an update here today, this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Jon Brady, and Justin, for that report and update, and Brother Avery, for sitting here and praying with us and being with us here. It's been well over a year since we've gotten to sit with each other, and sometimes our schedules don't align, and our time together is very valuable. So I'm happy we were able to provide these updates today. I want to say all the relatives that decided to join in, and the relatives that will be watching this on our media at a later time. I'm happy today. I think as the sun rose this morning, it was a little brighter, and what happened and what transpired in America is so similar to the challenges we're facing in our Peyote way of life as well. And I'm going to talk a little bit about these parallels that are going on. But what happened in America last night was millions and millions of people went to the polls, they went to the voting booths, and they expressed their God-given right in a democracy to have a vote, to have a say in our destiny and our future here in America. And what they said collectively, these millions and millions of people, were enough is enough. And what they were really expressing was the way the country was going was so dangerous and so antithetical towards our values and our core values. And sometimes when we talk about this in a mainstream way, people say, oh, There's NACNA, they're colonized, look at them, they're talking about democracies and this and that, but what they don't ever get to is our traditional forms of government were also consensus based. Our leaders were picked by our people. Our leaders didn't pick our people. And it's really important that we defend these democracies as our way forward. And what happened last night in America was powerful because common people, one man, one vote, they were able to stand up against this president. They were able to stand up against white supremacy, which has been advocated for by this president. They were able to stand up against the racism that was happening all across the land. And they were also able to stand up to the idea that you could rig elections, that you could redistrict black Congress people right out of their seats, that you could gerrymander, that you could do all of those things. Why am I bringing that up? That's exactly what the attempt was on Indian country here, to steal the voice of regular, good, common peyote people from the Hogan teepee level on up to delegates of our organizations. And I want to applaud Oklahoma Native American Church, the elections that they just had, and congratulate Hartzell Sweezy and all the other officers. And the vice president seat held down now by John Arqueta, the former president. What that is called continuity relatives. For over 100 years, Oklahoma has been having elections and handing the torch off to a new generation of leaders, to a new generation of people that would become stewards of this peyote way of life and representatives. And they couldn't have picked a better person to be in there, and all of the supporting cast that are also officers, from the sergeant in arms to the treasurer, the secretary, the clergy, and on down. So why am I bringing that up? I've had the great fortune to witness and watch 3 of their elections, and what I wanted to point out to the relatives is they're always advertised, they're always promoted, and everybody that's an affiliate chapter has a say, and they come together in an open, transparent manner in front of everybody, and they cast their vote and they decide who's going to be leading them. And we stand shoulder to shoulder with Oklahoma NAC, and we look forward to working with them down the road. Why is that important? For whatever reason, we've reached some of the same bad behaviors that the rest of America is doing. And they have these fancy words for them. They come from the Greek language in Europe, but it's oligarchs. Those are the rich elites that are trying to run our country now. These are the people like Eli Musk and all of other Trump's cronies. We also have oligarchs in our own peyote communities that are trying to influence our internal decision making. That's Cody Swift, Dr. Bronner, Rick Dobbins, and these individuals that have taken it upon themselves to open up their deep pockets to affect and impact the internal decision making within our peyote communities. They also have in America aristocracies. These are the elite, and they believe that by their birthright that they have a say that's more important than anybody else's. And it's a small, very small group of people that are trying to make decisions for everybody else. Why do I bring this up? In our own communities, if you see people that are self-authorized, that have ordained themselves to speak for everybody, they're stealing your voice. And what the gentlemen here, my brothers, have been saying is, we have representative bodies. You erode that by usurping that voice and stealing it. And that's not healthy for us. Add on to that authoritarian behaviors, intimidation, going public to disparage people, trying to knock people out of their positions, impeaching people, and all the behaviors that go along with that are unhealthy for our way of life. So what happened last night in America, what happened in Oklahoma, where they've done this for over 100 years now, is important, and we applaud them for that. It's very, very interesting. And when you have a body that isn't accountable to anybody, when you have a body that has no members, when you have a body that has no constituent group, when you have a body that's funded by non-Indians, and managed by non-Indians on the everyday basis, and isn't a governmental body, but they're interfering in decision making, that they're approaching governmental institutions and creating the appearance that they're a representative body that's dangerous. So these are the things that are important to confront, and it's not something that we enjoy, but it's something that's necessary. And all leaders, all of us sitting at this table and everybody else, you should be prepared to receive criticism. That's part of leadership. It's part of what we sign up for. And this is our opportunities to hold each other to account, to create a heightened sense of collegiality, of comity, of respect, of deference with each other. And that's the behaviors that will create unity. Unity is possible, it's at hand, but not when there's actors that are undermining it actively. So this is kind of what's important, for us to say, and say it in a good way. And I wanted to talk a little bit as well about the upcoming Thanksgiving celebration down in the gardens. We support everybody going to that. We believe everybody should go down there in a good way. They should participate in a good way. We believe that something good is going to come of this, too. But we also are with our eyes wide open, and we wanted to say, we'll be praying for all of our relatives down there on that weekend at home in our home fires and with our families, and encouraging people to attend. But be careful as well. And I'm interested in this theme of the event, Seeds of Sovereignty. Now, what sovereignty means, my brother Justin explained it very well. Pancho explained it very well. But what it really means is self-rule, self-governance. He talked about inherent sovereignty. It's not something that anybody can give anybody. And your actions, are they of a sovereign? And how can a nonprofit be sovereign? How can an entity be sovereign? What are they sovereign over when they don't have any members, where nobody elected them, where they're only self-authorized? And sovereignty over medicine doesn't exist. This medicine that we're all trying to protect, all of us are, belongs to Creator. Doesn't belong to a nonprofit organization. Doesn't belong to any one tribe. Doesn't belong to any of us. So when we think of that, what we're thinking about is Indian-based, tribally based. When we think about it, can you be sovereign when all of your funding comes from non-Indians and they have a special interest in the psychedelic movement? When they're also funding these initiatives to legalize these drugs in all of these states? When your daily management by your executive director, who is a non-Indian, who promised 6 years ago she was only going to be an acting and pass the torch down to a new person. We can't support that, and we don't support that. And I want to also raise your attention to one of the keynote speakers, a good man, a very good man. James Botsford is going to be talking about the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. I would ask James to also talk about the Morton versus Mankari case and the Supreme Court case over Indian preference. Why do I bring that up? We made a decision here. We can always have allies, but what an ally in the non-Indian community is a supporting person, a friend, somebody that uplifts. If you were to equate it to a meal you were having, you'd have your steak, your roast, your sides. The ally would probably be the piece of bread on the table too, not the main course. What's happened now is we've confused the main course from the supporting cast. When those individuals are actually making the decisions, they're writing the briefs, they're writing consultation comments, they're writing letters to state legislators. All of a sudden, you've lost that Indian voice, and it's been usurped by European Americans. And this is also part of our problem here. Indian preference, what happened in that Supreme Court case, it was defined as an essential element to our self-governance. to Indian self-determination. The Indian has to be able to speak for the Indian. The day needs to be over where European Americans have stepped in over us, stepped right over us, whether that's using their educational credentials or whether that's using their deep pockets and stolen that voice. And we have to be righteous and speak up against that when we see that. So I hope, James, you can share some of that as well. It's one of the reasons Justin Jones come about here to help advocate. His jurisprudence, his understanding of federal Indian law is equal to anybody that we've ever had before. But the power behind it is his fluency in Diné language, his understanding completely of these ceremonies. That creates a heightened qualification. And this is what we have to believe in. Do we believe in each other anymore? Or are we always going to rely on European Americans and this very complex structured caste system of white supremacy to handle our affairs, to steal our voice, to usurp that? And this is really serious. And what I would want to say as well is years ago, Sunday night, I think it's on the 13th of November, we'll be honoring John Eckelhawk over at the National Congress of American Indians. But in John's own words, he talked about the establishment of the Native American Law Program at University of New Mexico. At that time, we didn't have any Indian lawyers in the country. And Dr. Jim Wilson invested in that through the Office of Economic Opportunity because he wanted to understand all of Indian country, whether you're in education or whether you're in engineering, whether you're in medical or law and order. We cannot be sovereign if we cannot run our own affairs. We can't run our own affairs if we don't have a cadre of educated people that have transcended those institutions of higher learning to become competent to run those. And John Eckelhawk was one of the first students to go through the summer law program and then eventually enroll in law school and then come out and practicing law. OEO also invested in the beginnings of NARF. Why am I bringing that up? We have thousands of tribal attorneys now. One of them is sitting next to us. We never had that before. We have thousands of educated Indians that are running our schools now. And then we even have Indian doctors, medicine men, that also have degrees. We have qualified people at every corner of Indian country, having their voices still stepped on by European Americans that have decided to usurp that. And that day just needs to come over. And when I looked at the new announcement for the Deputy Director of IPCI, I was very excited about that until I saw on the qualifications in 3 different areas, qualified candidates will have multicultural competencies. What that showed me in America, peyote isn't a multicultural endeavor. It's for the American Indian. If we're going to be right in how we approach this, multicultural qualifications don't exist. What he was saying, Creator gave this to us to be stewards of, to defend. So I would encourage you guys, take that requirement out and make sure you hire a bona fide Indian to be in there. And the more closer you get to being Indian run, the more closer we'll get to supporting. And in one day, like Brother said, we'll be around the fireplace again together when the non-Indians are completely out of the way and the kinship and the brotherhood could be reestablished. We brought a poster here we could zoom in on here as well. We want to commend the Indigenous Medicine Fund and IPCI for their part in the second declaration on the psychedelic renaissance and indigenous as well. We encourage everybody to read it. It's an amazing document. The writers of it, the authors of it, did really powerful things with those words. 2 questions. 1, will it have an impact? Will the psychedelic renaissance community listen and adopt the declaration? And the second question is more nuanced, and I want to raise it here in a good way. Years ago, before any of us were on the scene and before most of us were even born, the United States of America was trying to terminate Indian nations. And what they were doing was offering them settlements to terminate the federal trust relationship and terminate Indian tribes and cut them loose. And some tribes stepped in and received that money, and their tribes were terminated. The National Congress of American Indians, under the leadership of my grandma's cousin, Helen Peterson, and Joe Gary, who was chairman of the Coeur d'Alene tribe, they launched this campaign to stop termination. They coined the phrase, "not without our consent." And it was essentially that tribal nations, if they were going to be terminated, had a say in it. And it was based on consent. Consent is a powerful word in the English language. What it kind of means is permission. So when the Indigenous Medicine Fund delegation created this declaration, they drew attention to the UN Declaration on Indigenous Rights. And they urged for the adoption of that under the pretense of free, prior, informed consent. Free, prior, informed consent. And what this really was getting at was extraction. If you're extracting these traditional medicines, consent must be granted. If you're trying to profiteer off of these traditional medicines, consent must be granted. And I applaud them for that. I think we all do. But what they didn't explain, and what hasn't been explained yet, is who has the right to grant consent. And I was making a motion towards the Diné brothers here, and I said, if you think about it, maybe it's the San Juan River, and there's a company that's wanting to negotiate to have water rights, access to that. Maybe they're moving a coal slurry, or they need water for fracking, or they need water for a data center. And these are Navajo Nation water rights, riparian water rights, Winter's Doctrine water rights. Are they going to go get consent to take Navajo water and go ask the Hopi tribe to get permission for that? Or one of the other Pueblos or the Utes? And this works vice versa. What the relatives never explained to the psychedelic renaissance is that the mechanism and framework for consent with the UN Declaration on Indigenous Rights, it goes through tribes, tribal nations, representative bodies, relevant bodies. So this consent is powerful. And we already have frameworks for it that have been useful. We've had government-to-government consultation. And when you bring in corporations, pharmaceuticals, and a movement renaissance of the psychedelic, there's a lot of confusion about it. But at the end of the day, the UN spells it out really well. So if you zero in on this and you take a look at it, nonprofits have no role in granting consent, including us. And the UN also says tribal, indigenous people have a right to their spaces for ceremony, for religious, for cultural integrity of their identity. That means that non-Indians aren't to usurp that or step into that space without consent. What is going to happen, this declaration, we're going to educate more people about it too, and advance this, in a lot of other forums. We're also talking at great length about the state representatives that have been approached by interest groups, really helping them understand who speaks for Indian country. Homeland Security, who speaks for Indian country. DEA, who speaks for Indian country. Department of Justice, who speaks for Indian country. When we're working on these conservation easements in USDA and Department of Interior, who speaks for Indian country? That's the great question of our time that we're helping clarify and do that. So with that being said, again, I brought this up. This was the executive order proposal that we worked on for a couple years, and we're still working on this Office of Cultural Rights and Interior, which would help execute some of this. And even under this administration, we're making strides and efforts to do that. But the framework, the plan, the idea is all contained in here, and it's endorsed by the National Congress of American Indians, Affiliated Tribes, Northwest Indians, United Tribes of North Dakota, United Indian Nations of Oklahoma, Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Association, Great Lakes Intertribal Council, Rocky Mountain Tribal Council Leaders, Coalition of Large Tribes, and many, many other tribes that endorse this on their own. This is our collective voice. These are the structural organizations that have the proper purview to work with entities to ensure legitimate, genuine Indian representation. So I leave you with that thought, relatives. I love you, each and every one of you. And we support prayer everywhere. We support what's going to transpire on Thanksgiving weekend. We want everyone to be clear, though, that there's also caveats, that there's also wide open eyes, and how we want things to be is what we're striving for. So thank you, Brother Jon, for this time. Thank you, Brother Justin, Brother Avery, and all you beautiful, wonderful people out there in Indian country. I hope.
And then going, say a few words. So at this time here, I just want to thank Ryan here for breaking it down and showing us the message of the declaration of the indigenous people here. So as we're moving forward, you know, we're just trying our best to re-express what should have been expressed, you know, years ago. You know, we're just trying to our best to get the tribal government involved for all our ceremonial ways of life and our medicines here. So I'm gonna leave a little time here to our good relative here, Mr. Denny. Maybe some encouragement here on his ceremonial vibes and energies here to the relatives here. So give a little time, and after that, then I'm gonna have some closing comments here. So.
All right. That all relatives in Indian country, I'd like to go ahead and introduce myself. My clan, Todekoje Nishle Ado Totsohni, Washishin, Tatnes Zane, Shichedo, Sanjikin, Shinada. Ako Yat I am the president for Diné Hataałi Association, chanters, knowledge holders, and then traditional practitioners, Hataałi. And we have a voice, we have concerns about our sacred bundles we use in our healing ceremony. And these are sacred to us, and we've been using them in time and memorial. And we rely on this as genuine Navajo belief and genuine Navajo teaching, genuine Navajo songs and prayer, the one that saved our life through wars, invasion, and historical trauma, Christianity, and we are still here using that, and we still rely on that, and we survive with that. And on social media and TikTok, people, Navajos, talking about that they had a visitation from the spirit world that ordered the medicine bundle, feathers to be burnt. And I consider that very misleading and misunderstanding, talking to the young people. I say, stop, don't do that. We're not allowed to do that. We have rights, tribal rights, indigenous rights, and we are not evil people in the ceremonial circles. We heal and we help people. And a lot of these foreign religion belief come from Middle East, where there's wars, where there's trouble, where there are conflicts. They should correct this first and say something about our belief. Over there, it's chaos. But here, we're trying to make everything all right. We're against foreign religious movements, take over, trying to assimilate, conquer, dominate our religious rights, our belief. And we need to kind of like make a notion that we need to save our language and our culture, traditional ways. And we need to protect our sacred lands, sacred medicine, sacred songs and prayers. Our language make us who we are as Indian, Navajos, other tribes that we are on sacred grounds and sacred lands. So the NACNA Association and Medicine Men Association, we're working together to make communication to stop this. Anything that's in social media that is presented to the outside world, we shouldn't allow that. We shouldn't do that. We need to stop that. I'll switch it to my Navajo language and talk to the people. Denny, NACNA Adoshi ndanhit nestata nahasata nokson hathasita nokson nihimasanda nihichedash ado nihiche hatasida dochis ida do bahalo da hanavat o bajot lota o panahachis ida adostan hit ot neda o wahatsu gosh o the nepa huin into ado says Bana alteto. Ehani nihemasan nihcheda nihat hatita betsato betaho aki etat eta. Dit agwa nahasado the nepanan ido dit ego nahava chun ego agwa no eti ishi katigena aza bayan kit or this or nedishi adet a ekot heke bedo tahatsid a jetenes kahinetenes Nihijaya Hataałi zen, Nahas Tuye Hataałi zen, Ninasaye Taholo Fuko, Nihya Zeye Tatilzen, Bahatasen, Akotat Etan Zenko. So Eye Bahuin and Eye Bayat Hit Kogo, Kunzata Hoji Kogo. Ehon so Behasido Shazatiki, Ado Koja. We as Navajo traditional and traditionalists, educators, history teachers, and Navajo psychology, Navajo oral history, any tribal psychology, any tribal history, we need to go back into that. And if we're going to do something, we have to understand where we come from, who we are, where do we stand. Are we standing on the concrete or are we standing on an asphalt? We need to step off that and stand on the ground. We need to take off your shoes and socks and feel the earth beneath your feet, and be Indian, be native, be indigenous, be yourself. You have a voice. Don't be dominated. Don't be conquered. Don't be assimilated. Don't be acculturated. Be native. Be indigenous. Be yourself. Be original. And let's protect our sovereignty, our values and belief as all different tribes. We united. I'd like to say that. Thank you.
I just want to thank Mr. Denny here for his expressions, you know, and I'm really glad and happy that this took place here. And then I know our purpose, our message here today was offered with prayer, faith, and love, you know, is to bring some understanding, you know, that to our relatives, our ceremonial practitioners, roadmen, members of the Native American Church. So we try our best here to share the good news and share what needs to be said. You know, so we all know our relationship with the medicine, sacred medicines, our prayer, our way of life. And it's not a psychedelic, it's not a tool and not a plant medicine in the Western sense. It is a living relative that teaches us humility, strength, and balance with the Creator. Our ancestors carried this medicine through colonization, imprisonment, and persecution. They did not do so for it to be discussed in psychedelic business spaces or commercialized as a drug. They carried it so that we, their descendants, could still pray in the old original ways. So we try our best here to be encouraging, you know, but and then we have organizations out there or at these conferences, and they are not native-led, you know, and they often use our native people, our tribal people, to legitimize their agenda. Mm-hmm. When our people appear in those places, it can create a false impression of the Native American Church supports the psychedelic movement. When the truth, we always have stood apart from that. Peyote is not part of the psychedelic industry.
That's right.
We must be clear. Peyote must not be included in the psychedelic decriminalization or legalization efforts. Peyote must not be grown and distributed outside in native hands. Peyote conservation must be governed by the Native American Church leadership, ceremonial practitioners, and council, not by non-native non-profits, outside funders. Even if outsiders claim to help, leadership must remain native, tribal. Allies may support, but they cannot lead. So we give a good, kind, loving message to our relatives. We say this with love. You know, if you're working with a group that attend psychedelic conferences or take funding from those spaces, you know, please consider asking yourself who controls the message being shared. Who benefits from the presence there? Does it serve the medicine or does it serve the industry? Our ways is not about fame and recognition. It is about prayer, protection. When we stand on the stage and like promoting psychedelics, even if we speak against it, we give the power to that space. Our medicine should never be prop for another movement agenda.
That's right.
So moving forward, good relatives, we call our members and relatives. We kindly ask, maybe cease participation in psychedelic conferences or panels involving peyote and mescaline. Number 2, refocus conservation efforts with Native-led circles under Native American Church authority and tribal guidance. Number 3, let's pray together for those that have been misled or confused by outside interests. They are still our relatives. Number 4, let's create our own forms of education, healing, and unity, where we speak on our own terms Number 5, let's reclaim the narrative. Let the world hear that peyote belongs to its people, not the psychedelic industry. So our prayer, our unity, our good news, and our love to all our good Native American church families, we offer a message to you in a good way, not to shame, but to heal. We ask our Creator to guide our relatives back to the path of balance and truth. We pray for those caught up between worlds, that they remember where their medicine comes from and who it belongs to. We are all children of the same fire. Let us walk together again in humility and in prayer to protect the last piece of sovereignty we still hold, the sacred, holy, divine medicine. So on behalf of the Native American Church of North America, our legislative chair, our legal advisor, and our ceremonial practitioner chair, and we just want to encourage all our good relatives to Seattle in a nice way. So we want to say about that much. And if you want to go have more information, go to our Facebook website or go Native American Church of North America.info. So any questions, you could give us a call, and we could all be in tune and harmony again here going into the winter season here. So may God bless you all, good health and happiness to each and every one of you. From our Native American Church fireplace to yours, may God bless you all with good health and happiness. Ho.